Savannah Harbour. In order to collect 71 slave runaways, a French ship called the Greteley dragged into Georgia's Savannah Harbour in 1854. The slaves inside banged and hit the ship, which caused damage. The ship took in water and sank as the captain refused help from the locals. Today, the sailors say they can feel the spirits of slaves when they enter the waters of the Savannah Harbour. Platte Eyes. Gula tribes are descendants of slaves from the coastal areas of Georgia and South Carolina. A creature called Platte Eye is said to haunt the area. They come in different forms, such as a humanoid with a single eye. In other tales, the Platte Eyes are shapeshifters that take shape of animals. Buckner Mansion. The Buckner Mansion in the New Orleans is haunted by the black woman who was in charge of the slaves who served at the house. Miss Josephine was a well-trusted person who was both a governess and midwife. Some have witnessed her apparition at the window. The Phantom of Suck Creek. The Cumberland Trail near Suck Creek in Tennessee is haunted by the ghost of a runaway slave. The cruel master and others hanged him from a tree, but he was not dead. The white men dragged him to the farm and publicly mutilated him as a lesson to the other slaves. After his death, people have seen a broken figure running through the woods, screaming and moaning. The Ghosts of Kingsley Plantation. Zephaniah Kingsley was a good slave owner who gave his slaves much personal time if they had done their work properly. There was a slave who raped and murdered a slave woman. He was captured and hanged from an oak tree. It is said that his spirit wanders the Kingsley Plantation. The Hunt Morgan House. Thomas Hunt Morgan, who won the 1933 Nobel Prize in Medicine, was a member of this house. Their housekeeper, Bouviette James, was a kind lady who looked after the children at Morgan House. After her death, she was buried in the family plot. It is believed that her ghost still wanders the house and takes care of their children. Now, the house is a museum. Playful George. At 126 Wentworth Street in Charleston, South Carolina, the ghost of a young boy called George haunts. Long before, he and his family were happily living there, but his parents were sold without George. He drowned in the Charleston Harbor trying to reach the parents on a ship. Booger Hollow. A slave called William was sold to a farmer named Benjamin Hocking. The incident happened in Southampton County, Virginia, 1831. Hocking was a brute, while Williams a natural rebel. William was ill-treated, and he grabbed an axe and hit hard on the owner's head. The angry crowd took him to the countryside and battered him to death. His body was thrown into a sinkhole. His screams and cries were heard, and the sightings abruptly started in 1945. The Deadly Cellar of Allen County. In Allen County, Kentucky, there was a couple who kept 15 slaves. When the war broke out, most of the slaves escaped, except for 2 that appeared to be chained up in the basement. The furious owner shot the last 2 and hid the murder. He buried the bodies in the cellar and locked it up permanently. Even though the house is not there, the cellar and the ghosts of the 2 slaves still exist. Igbo Landing. Igbo was a tribe in Nigeria notable for their particularly high resistance to slavery. When they were captured in Africa and brought to another land, the chief and group Igbo people walked into the sea considering death a better option than a life of slavery. They never came back. Now, people report that on foggy nights, you can hear the rattling of chains and the chant, "The water brought us, the water will take us away."